over now to the economy, because the Ghana cedi is now officially the worst performing currency in the world. The currency is now rated second to the Sri Lankan rupee, which is obviously an outlier in nominal terms as we speak. You would need close to 10 Ghana cedis just to get $1. That's how bad the situation is. In the last 24 hours, the country has lost additional 2% on the currency value, which is the worst in recent history. This situation is forcing the Bank of Ghana to convene a monetary policy meeting as we speak, which is underway. Meanwhile, the Vice President himself, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in the past 24 hours has been giving accounts of what he believes are the factors pushing Ghana's economy out of gear.
We had to undertake a major banking crisis reform that we consolidated a number of banks. At that time, 2018, 2019, this cost almost close to $7 billion for the country to save the banking system. Almost $7 billion. Now, the choice that was available was either you let the banking system collapse or you save it. There was really no middle way. Whose deposits were you going to let go? And we had to save the banking system and the deposits of 4.6 million people. Of course, we also had COVID come in at the end of 2019, and we had the worst economic depression since the 1930s in the global economy, and COVID had its major impact. Of course, from the president's point of view at the time of COVID, the emphasis was to save lives and was not on fiscal discipline. And so we had to basically focus on saving lives at great fiscal cost. But before we could know it, Russia and Ukraine also came to add to our troubles. And we are dealing with those issues. So fiscal discipline really is the ability of government to balance revenues and expenditures. And when discipline is not maintained, expenditures inevitably exceed revenues, and that creates a deficit. Following where we are, government has focused in the 2022 budget on fiscal consolidation to enhance debt and fiscal sustainability as we implement our economic revitalization and transformation program. The measures that have been implemented in the 2022 budget include validation and revenue-enhanced measures to reposition our economy. Indeed, the implementation of the measures highlighted in the 2022 budget should lead to a significant fiscal adjustment from a projected deficit of 12.1% of GDP in 2021 to 7.4% of GDP in 2022. And this represents a 4.7 percentage point adjustment, a downward adjustment in the deficit in 1 year. In January 2022, government announced and began implementing a 20% expenditure cut as part of the fiscal stabilization and debt sustainability measures through the Minister for Finance. And this was followed by an additional 10% cut in discretionary expenditure, all in an attempt to balance the fiscal position and restore fiscal discipline following the banking crisis, the COVID, the Ukraine and Russia war, and so on. In addition, the Ministry of Finance has strengthened expenditure monitoring systems and processes to ensure effective implementation of these measures. For instance, government called for efficient use of energy resources, and in line with this, fuel coupon allocations to all political appointees and heads of government institutions, including SOEs, were cut by 50%.
Also, the Vice President there announcing a raft of measures being taken to address the situation. Isaac Ofieje is a data analyst with our research desk. Isaac, not a good day for the Ghana Cedi. We've lost 2% already in the last 24 hours. How dire is the situation and how bad is the depreciation of the Cedi?
So last year around this same time, you know, our beloved Cedi had lost just 1.6%.
Just 1.6?
1.6, and it wasn't even up to 1 peso. That same period this year, the Cedi has lost more than 35%, and that's even the average. And this, in nominal terms, is about 3 cedis, 34 pesos. And so, the beginning of the year, you could actually get $1 for 6 cedis, but currently $1 is actually going for 9 cedis, 39 pesos. And as you can see,
I mean, are you not being diplomatic when you don't say 10 cedis? Because
I'm using the average.
Anyway,
the market average.
I'll give that to you. I'll grant you that.
Anyway. So just look at the movement, the trajectory.
Right.
So a year ago, you could actually
this is
get
where we started from.
Exactly $1 for 6 cedis and some few pesos. Now, just a month ago, Blessed, $1 was 7 cedis, 43 pesos. And today, just like you said, this is actually the average,
Average,
But we all know it's approaching 10 cedis.
Right.
But today, you can get in the market on average $1 for 9 cedis, 34 pesos. And if you track this, you can actually see that, the Cedi has lost since January this year 3 cedis, 32 pesos to the dollar. It means if you are someone who is importing things from abroad and you depend on foreign currencies, now your working capital has depleted, and now you need more cedis to actually get the dollars that you used to actually get back then last year. Now, why are we having this challenge, Blessed? This all started, this year when we had the downgrades from Fitch, from Moody's, and all other, ratings agencies. Right. It actually put pressure on our foreign reserve. Why? Because we were shut out of the Eurobond market. We needed liquidity in terms of dollars to actually pay our debt in terms of interest payments, give to the BDCs to bring in petroleum, for pharmaceuticals to bring in drugs. Right. I mean, pharmaceuticals. Right. Now, this created pressure on the foreign reserve. We started the year with foreign reserve somewhere close to $10 billion. Now, currently, that's even somewhere June.
So it's depleted further?
It's depleted to $7 billion.
And what's the implication for those who may not understand the connection between our reserves and the performance of the economy?
So Ghana we don't print dollars. So you actually depend on inflows to get the dollars that we have in the economy. So those dollars that you have in the economy, that's what you're going to use to pay your debts, give to those who are importing things, to bring in and other things. Now, the dollars we have currently, if you look at the demand versus the supply, there is a huge gap between demand and supply, and it's creating a lot of pressure on exchange rate. Right. That is why we've seen the Cedi moving from 6 cedis to now approaching 10 cedis.
Wow. Now,
if you do the quick math, you realize that the Cedi loses on the average in a day about 14% of its value in a day. And in a month, it's somewhere around 50 pesos in actual terms, 50 pesos a month. So if Bank of Ghana's Monetary Policy Committee meeting today, we know they will be looking at a lot of things.
A lot of options.
Exactly. But if the measures they put in place, we don't see it working, we can actually see $1 to somewhere 12 or 13 cedis by the end of this
And we keep hearing this thing about the rating of the Cedi being one of the worst performing currencies. When that comes up, what's the nuance to it? Or, I mean, the caution that we always need to apply when we're rating the Ghana Cedi? It's as though, for many, the Ghana Cedi as compared to countries like Sudan, I mean, these are countries that should not have, I mean, obviously looking at their security challenges, should not have their currencies performing better than ours. So how do you explain to the average person out there that this is how bad the situation is, that, for instance, the Ghanaian cedi is not performing as much as currencies in some very deprived African countries?
So what we are looking at here is depreciation. Depreciation simply means, the speed with which you are falling. And if you look at the speed with which the Ghanaian cedi is falling to the dollar, it's probably faster than all other currencies in the continent. So that's what we mean. But obviously, you know, one CD to 1 naira is huge, you know. So the CD is still strong against the dollar, but if you compare them to the dollar, the rates of depreciation in terms of how the CD is falling, you can actually see that the CD is falling faster than all other, you know, currencies. And so this exerts a lot of pressure, just like I said, on the exchange rate. And you can't have your currency losing 50 pesos each month. And that's giving you somewhere around, you know, we'll give you 1 CD is to 13 CDs or 1 CD is to 12 CDs by the end of December. But we know that we started the year banking our hopes of getting some monies from the Eurobond market. And, you know, throughout our history, we go to the Eurobond market for liquidity whenever we are cash strapped. And currently the government has a deficit of more than 40 billion Ghana cedis to actually settle. The government doesn't have the fiscal space now to actually do this. And so right now it is borrowing more from the domestic market and actually banking its hopes on currently IMF and then also the 750 million loan that we actually will be getting from Parliament to actually make sure that we are able to put a stopgap measure to this depreciation that we are actually seeing, Blessed.
And for the monetary policy meeting that we're talking about today, let's look at what the procedure is and how an intervention from the central bank could change what's happening to the cedi now. What usually would happen, and let's talk about the expectation because it's critical to what we may be on the lookout for once that meeting is over. What are the options here for the central bank, for instance?
Because, you know, this is an emergency. It means we are not supposed to have the meeting around this time. But Bloomberg has already given us heads up saying that the Bank of Ghana is likely to raise the monetary policy rates by more than somewhere 200 basis points. It means the current monetary policy rate, which is the rate at which central banks lend to commercial banks, is around 19%. And if you raise it to 200 basis points, that will peg it at somewhere around 21%. It means cost of borrowing is going to go up. And if cost of borrowing is going to go up already, the limited funds that we have in the domestic market, government is already battling with the private sector. So there's already crowding out of the private sector. And so those are some of the things we expect the MPC, you know, if you look at the data they've been putting out when they have these meetings, they usually either increase the monetary policy rates, find ways and means to tame, you know, inflation, and then also find ways and measures to actually make dollars available to, you know, agencies like the BDCs and those who are importing pharmaceuticals. And government itself now has a huge, you know, responsibility of settling debt. You know, the first quarter of the year, we actually saw that the amount government projected to spend on, you know, settling its debts, actually, it increased than the projected amount. And by the end of the year, we are expecting government to pay more on interest payments. And for the second time in a row, we are seeing government paying more for interest payments, more than even compensation of employees. And so you can actually see how dire the entire situation is when you talk about the Ghanaian cedi.
Okay, so let's talk about the international market and why it's become a challenge for our government to seek for funding elsewhere because our credit ratings are down. But beyond that, beyond the ratings, what's that challenge for government in terms of assessing credit or liquidity from elsewhere?
Well, nobody is tying your hands and say, don't go to the international fund market.
Right.
But the current situation simply means that when you go there to borrow, prepare to pay more in terms of interest payments. We are already being swallowed by the amounts we are paying as interest on our loans. We're not even talking about amortization. Governments can go to the Eurobond market to borrow, but we ask ourselves, in the long run, is government ready, willing? Do they have the capacity to pay for long-term interest payments? No. That is why they are looking for, you know, loans from places like the IMF, because there you are going to get loans with soft interest. And so governments want somewhere around 1 to 3 billion cedis from the current IMF program that they have actually put on the table. We know that this has actually moved from the staff discussion to now the executive board table. They are going to assess our situation. They are privy to our books, and they will be in Ghana to actually do the article.
And that may not even come until the first quarter of next year.
It means we have to find other alternatives before 2023.
Isaac Ofieje with our research desk. Quite a very tough time for our economy now. Let me bring in Professor John Gachi, who's with the University of Cape Coast Business School. Thank you so much, Prof, for your time here on the poll. So the MPC meeting is underway. We're hoping that it will be wrapping up any moment from now, or we're expecting a statement as well from the Bank of Ghana on this. But this is how dire the situation is. The Vice President was just talking a while ago about some of the factors accounting for this, and still once more pointing up to the internal issues such as the banking sector cleanup. Where do we go from here, and how can government easily get out of the woods?
For the government to get out of the woods, a proper diagnosis ought to be made. It is not because of the banking sector cleanup per se. It is the choice and the model used to deal with the banking sector difficulties that has created problems, unemployment, truncated business activities, and accumulation of debt, which have not yet been verified. And those are policy choices. And I'm wondering whether we should continue to be using those things as the bane of the economy rather than the policy choices that we have made that have created problem for the economy.
But then what should be that focus for the MPC as the engagements wrap up? What would you want to see as some of the practical measures to be announced, at least by the central bank, to avert this crisis that we're witnessing?
Well, if you read through critically the statement issued by the Bank of Ghana calling for the emergency meeting, it is very clear that they have accepted that previous strategies have not been working, and they want to review those strategies and perhaps come up with new one. And the new one that they are amplifying is the purchase of gold. But the question is, how potent is the purchase of gold in the era where there are multiple demands for foreign currency? Will the purchase of gold supply the immediate demand for foreign currency? These are issues that I don't know how the Bank of Ghana and the Monetary Policy Committee is deliberating on those issues. But I believe that giving statements in the past few days about speculation and investors moving away from government instruments, the Monetary Policy Committee may want to increase the policy rate to see if people can appreciate the fact that they should maintain their investment with government instruments to halt what they are now calling capital flight from investment in the country, in the government instrument, and to also cool down the speculative effect of which many are withdrawing their money or they are investing to purchase foreign currency as alternative investment.
All right. And for government policy, it's been called into question now. What practically could be done by perhaps the finance ministry to aid the monetary policy measures that the Bank of Ghana may put out there?
I'm not sure Bank of Ghana has the reserve to do immediate shoring up. From the data that have been shared, I think that the Bank of Ghana had made a statement already that they believe that the 750 million that they believe will come by close of month will do the trick. So I'm not sure we have any immediate shoring up capacity now. So I'm not sure of the immediate solution that can actually quell the upward or the volatile situation relating to the exchange rate.
Anyway, I would have to leave it here. Professor Kachi, thank you so much for joining us. Meanwhile, the Ghana Union of Traders is also asking the Bank of Ghana to consider setting up an ad hoc committee or constituting a group of experts to salvage the Ghana cedi. Joining us now is President of the Union, Dr. Joseph Obeng. Thank you so much, Doc, for your time here on The Pulse. So the MPC meeting is underway, probably will be ending anytime soon. But for you as traders, you're feeling the pinch of this. You claim that your capital for trading has depreciated by some 40% already due to the poor performance of the Ghana cedi. So aside the issue of the setting up of the committee, which you're calling for, what's your expectation from the central bank in terms of interventions?
Yeah. As we've already said, we'll call on the central bank. In fact, I have started negotiations to that effect, that they meet the major stakeholders and, if possible, some sort of committee on the forest be set so that we all bring our input. In that, most of us have a lot of issues to raise in there. Even exporters will tell where sometimes they want to bring in their funds, but for want of getting the same value of their money, they feel reluctant to trading through the banks. And then those of us in the import sector also feeling reluctant to transact through the mainstream banks because of stringent documentation that is required. Sometimes we're doing transacting through the bank for forest, and as if we are going for forest, but the documents and all that. And that if it is relaxed, it will mean that people do not go to the black market to trade. People, as a matter of fact, feel very comfortable trading at the black market for a simple reason that there they are not going to be asked any documentation. So if it is the major problem, then we have to sit down and then we all iron out, fashion out, because the traditional way of doing things haven't helped us from years. We have been doing these stringent things and creating room for the black market to operate.
Yeah, but some of the extraordinary measures you're calling for, including the reconstitution of the Forex Committee, has been done before. It's been done in the past by government, except that this is the results, basically. We're trading against the US dollar at some 9.98. That's how bad the situation is. So what difference will we see if we go back to this measure that you're calling for, bringing on experts to help the BOG and the government to weather the storm?
Yeah, I can say that the first one was inconclusive because the target, the structures that were given for that committee, we did not even start working when it saw a stillbirth. But if we have made a permanent forest committee, our major preoccupation is to see the stability of the currency, how to shore up exports, to boost the forest, and so many things. It was not just to solve a one purpose, maybe depreciation of a particular period. And so if it is given the chance again, and then the clear mandates are given to us, I think it will work. Now we also put the yuan also as an alternative currency for trading. And that one, if the stakeholders meet and all that, because the other time Bank of Ghana was also telling us that they tried that and people didn't patronize. Then I said that, was it communicated? Definitely, it was not much well communicated.
Interesting revelations there. You are advocating that perhaps we begin to fall on the Chinese yuan. Some countries have tried that. I stand to be corrected. I think Zimbabwe or Zambia.
Yeah, it's working for them.
You believe that such a measure is working?
Yeah, because I mean, if you see the trend, how the world is moving now, it will be surprised that China will even fall out of the dollar. Ukraine war, Russia is going its way to use rupees and all that. So it's about time that we also start thinking we don't have to sit at one particular place, especially when others have adopted similar currencies and are doing well. And so it's not that even here, Bank of Ghana haven't tried. From my engagement with them, they started somewhere and it didn't go well. So now if we sit down and then it is well communicated to us and then we do proper education and all that, then of course, the bulk of our trading is done in the Far East. Then if we have their currency as an alternative source, then it's going to reduce the pressure on the dollar so that at least we can have some respite. Yeah.
You itemized a number of issues in your last statement when, of course, you raised some concerns about the free fall of the cedi. Part of the concerns you also raised was about the juicy sectors of the Ghanaian economy, the fact that expats are completely controlling the very sensitive parts of our economy. You believe that that's connected to the depreciation of the Ghanaian cedi. For you, how do we address that?
That's the major issue about this depreciation, because don't forget that as a nation we've been doing our best. For the past 3 years we got a balance of trade surplus, meaning that export overshadowed that of import. If that is the case, then definitely we should have the cedi strengthened. But if we have export doing well and then the cedi is not strengthened, it means that the demand is very high. So let's find out what is causing the demand. It's as simple as that. And I've said that it's because of the dominance of foreigners in the juiciest part of the economy. I mean, let's think about communication. What investment do we have in there? We do not have any investment in communication. We do not have in the banking. The banks are declaring almost 1 billion profit and all that, and most of them are foreign based, and they repatriate all to their base. That's their head office.
Yes, since you're talking about the banking sector, I would like to take your thoughts on that, because the Vice President, were just indicating a while ago, has been speaking about the banking sector cleanup, the fact that our local banks were not clearly performing. So they were part of the problem. And now you're saying, well, let's revert, let's go back to that default setting that partly government is blaming as part of the problem.
What I'm saying is that apart from the fact that there was a problem with most of the local banks, because what is the irony here? The irony here is all the banks that were operating here, it's only the local ones that have the problems. And why is it that the foreign ones did not have problems? Is there something that we can do to boost the strength of the local banks and all that? I think we have to think through, because otherwise the foreign banks have dominated, and the kind of profit that is coming out, even in this era of problems, crisis, and all that, we are still turning so many millions and all that, and these monies all find their way out because the headquarters are not here. We are not the owners and all that. We are subsidiary branches and all that. And we look at communication. The money that go to communication is so huge, and what we have is just the taxes that we get, and maybe some royalties from bank from oil, gold, bauxite, and other things. And so we have to do a retention policy, and this I've been saying all over, that we have to make a conscious effort to invest about 40% in these juiciest areas of the economy. And if the money that we have gone to Eurobond to correct and all that, if some of these monies have come to purchase about 40% from these areas, all that it means is that we are going to retain about 40% of the repatriation that goes outside. And that would have helped us maintain a bulk of this forest. Now we talk about the trading aspect. We're getting all for the foreigner. I told you the other time that the locals, all the trading, the volume of trading or importation that we do in Ghana here, the local share is 15%. The bulk of 85% of total volume of imports is being done by expatriates, and then
and when you keep, hammering on that point about the expatriates, some say you're being, I'm sorry for using that word, xenophobic. But you're simply jealous of the fact that expatriates and their businesses here in Ghana are outperforming that of Ghanaians. So could it not be the fault of you, the Ghanaian entrepreneurs, as well?
Not at all. Let's put it right. Because otherwise, we always keep on saying that we do excessive importation, isn't it? If we do excessive importation, normally they narrow it to the local importer. Where you have the bulk of importers who are the worst corporates, those who are dumping for the bigger countries, China and all that, dumping. And so if you say that we do excessive importation, and then you have your investment laws to contain it, to make your investment law such that you reduce drastically the importation, what have I done? I'm not saying anything bad. I'm saying that use the investment laws to tighten excessive importation. Have I said something wrong? And I'm saying that you don't...
Except that you're being fixated on the expats anyway.
No, you don't. No, let me tell you, we are not saying anything. The fact is that let them come and trade, but let them bring the correspondent fund of investment to trade with. They don't bring a dime. All that they have to bring is a show or a proof of $1 million worth of goods. And presto, they've started. And so they'll bring a goods 100 million with that $100 million from China and just come, dump it here and change the money. They did not bring equivalent 100 million to transact. That's all that I'm talking. So the investment laws, you have gone further and said that, okay, now we've given you license to operate. How many containers are you going to bring for a year? He said 1,000 containers. I said, okay, 1,000 containers, what is the value of it? He said $10 million. Then deposit the $10 million at Bank of Ghana to use it to transfer and bring the goods. Am I saying something bad? Is this what we call xenophobic? No. It should not be that they bring the raw goods to come and derail the efforts of our industrialization drive. If we say we want to do industrialization, then we have to drive our investment to the preferred areas of of our choice. That in this case, industrialization. That's where we have to drive our investment to.
Okay.
But then you open your trading affair. Most of them come and they want to go to manufacturing. But when they come and see that the loophole is so big for them to trade in, do trading, then they just stop and bring the goods directly. Because they are not bringing a penny. So they bring the goods only and then they change. So when they are changing the money, they do not care about the value of this forest. Because they are brought about 2,000, 5,000 containers.
Right.
And all they need is to change this money.
The final point, the final point,
be xenophobic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The final point will be for me to pick up on the very concluding portions of your statement you released about a fortnight ago, raising your worst fears that if we do not take care, the Cedi may be trading 1:10 against the US dollar. Here's where we are today. We've lost some 2% already on the Ghana Cedi. It's pushing us to 9.34. So 1 Ghana Cedi to 9 cedis 30 pesos. Your fears are almost alive, not so?
No. And so who gave you the 9.34? Because it's even more. Because I thought when I said my worst fears is that we are heading forward to 10. Only last week it was somewhere 9.7. This week when you go, because the 9.34 might be the bank rate.
Right.
But the actual rate that one can actually source, we are already there. And I foresaw this coming in November, but it has come rather quick. And that's my worst fear is confirmed. It means that now people have started trading in the forest because panic buying have set in.
Right. So
you know,
what may happen eventually? What may happen to your businesses?
Yeah, our businesses is at standstill. And what I would say that businesses are confused because you don't know whether to continue to pile out the cost on the final consumer who is also overstretched. because of inflation, the final consumer, because this business that we do not do it in isolation. We do it with our customers. And if our customer is so overstretched because of inflation, his purchasing power has so reduced, are you going to increase your prices infinity? So then you become confused because you keep on increasing the price, and the ability of the consumer is not there to buy, and your turnover is curtailed.
Okay.
When your turnover is curtailed, it means that you are unable to service your debt at the bank.
We need to go.
You are unable to service your supplier's credit, and you are seriously in serious confusion and total distress.
Well, let's see what will be the fallout from the MPC meeting, but I'm grateful for your time, Dr. Joseph, for being here on The Pulse. Well, it appears that Guta is not the only one complaining. The Vehicle and Asset Dealers Union of Ghana is also fuming at government. We'll tell you why when we return shortly.